Salutations, spooks, spirits, and specters, and welcome back to more Corpse Party Book of Shadows as we continue Chapter 6. Just seeing this innocent little girl joyously stretching out to take a nap was enough to lift my spirits and renew my hope.
Sachikoちゃんがいてくれてよかった。ありがとうお姉ちゃん。こちらこそだよ、幸子ちゃん。だって今ここにあなたがいてくれなかったら。
She really must have been tired. She was out like a light the second her head touched the bedding.
かわいいな、もう。いかもねよ。ずっと歩いてたし。目覚めたらお家だといいな。
I awoke to find myself being shaken. Sachiko was trying to get me up, and her expression had gone white as a sheet.
お姉ちゃん、お姉ちゃん。何
？She was on the verge of tears. Something seemed to have really spooked her. Did that huge man find us? Was she attacked?
どうしたの？落ち着いて話して。髪留めなくしちゃったの。髪留め？起きたらなかったの。なんだ、そんなことか。そんなこと。あ、ごめんね。もっと怖いことかと。どこに落としたの？すぐ探せばあるよ、きっと。
The two of us searched every last inch of the room, me with a wounded foot, but we came up empty-handed.
幸子ちゃん、お姉ちゃんはどうすればいいかな？
The entire time we searched, Sachiko hadn't said a word. I was hoping invoking our sisterly bond might help cheer her up.
髪が目に入って痛い。その髪飾りちょうだい。
She raised her right hand slowly and pointed to my headband.
これは、ごめんね。これはあげられないの。
As soon as I refused, Sachiko let out a faint, otherworldly groan. In the next moment, her face distorted and changed. She no longer looked like an innocent little girl. She looked well and truly like a demon now.
幸子ちゃん？よこせ。よこせ。
The look in her eyes alone sent chills down my spine. These were the eyes of someone who meant me harm and was perfectly capable of inflicting it.
どうしよう。
Give her the headband? This feels like it's the right choice, but at the same time... Sachiko was continuing to groan under her breath. Fearing what she might be capable of, I desperately tried to console her.
サチコちゃん、聞いて、サチコちゃん。これはお母さんに買ってもらったばかりの大事なものなの。だから。お母さん？
Somehow or another, that seemed to quell her anger. Her facial expression snapped back into that of the gentle, kind girl I'd been talking to all this time.
そうなの。だからあげられなくてごめんね。お母さんからの？
She was oddly receptive to this explanation, and even seemed fascinated by it. Maybe I'd caused her to remember something about her own mother. She was a little girl, after all, so her mom was probably really dear to her in life.
お母さん。お母さん。
She looked like she was on the verge of tears again. I was beginning to feel bad that I'd even broached the subject.
ごめんね。いいの。
She still seemed a bit sad, but she nodded. Maybe she understood that I wouldn't give her my headband, and maybe she was okay with it. I don't know. I'm running out of places to go, and there's only so many rooms.
さっきから何を隠してるの？ここに何かあるの、お姉ちゃん。何も隠してなんかないよ。おもらししちゃったパンツなんて幸子ちゃんに見せられないもんね。本当かな。やっぱり何か隠してるよ。
Death room again? I really thought giving the headband would be the good decision.
早く行こうよ。やっぱり拗ねちゃったのかな。お姉ちゃんらしくカチューシャをあげればよかったかな。でも でもこのカチューシャは
I don't know where else to go.
Ne, Sachiko-chan. Sachiko-chan. Ne, Sachiko-chan.
She wasn't even looking at me anymore. I must have really upset her.
幸子ちゃん、カチューシャはあげられないけど他のものならいいよ。他のもの？私にできることなんて少ないけど。他のもの。じゃあここ。でもここはもう入りたくない。あ、幸子ちゃん。
Without a moment's hesitation, Sachiko just opened the door and walked right in. I didn't even have an opportunity to stop her.
どうしよう。
Sorry, every single time everybody's like, Sachiko, 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 and then I go over here and go like, Sachiko, Sachiko. The first thing I noticed when I entered the room was Sachiko's form sprawled out on the ground at the foot of the body pool. She was twitching a bit and moaning again, but this time it sounded more like a moan of pain than of anger.
Sachiko-chan! Sachiko-chan! 大丈夫? Sachiko-chan!
I stepped over her and turned around so as to put the decaying bodies behind my back and out of my sight, then started shaking her. I felt like I absolutely needed to snap her out of whatever this was before something terrible happened.
お姉ちゃん。よかった。気がつ。
I could feel her tiny cold hand on my abdomen through the thin cloth of my skirt. She was pushing me backwards with tremendous force.
触るな。
I lost my balance almost instantly and toppled over. It somehow felt like my fall occurred in slow motion. The walls and ceiling of the room grew more and more distant, but it happened gradually. Then I felt the murky liquid on my back and heard the splash. I was in the pool of bodies. Because I'd fallen backwards, it took me far too long to regain my bearings. I was submerged in that horrible tainted water, close to drowning. I finally broke through the surface, dodging the many dislodged eyeballs that were floating on it like peas in chicken soup. Each one wrapped in dull red bulging veins. I didn't even want to think about what was in all the water I'd swallowed. Unfortunately, much of it was still on my tongue. My mouth was filled with tiny bits and pieces of other human beings. The taste was overpowering. I was gagging and belching so hard, it felt like I was going to regurgitate all my internal organs. I tried to scream, but I could barely get any sound past the foul, lumpy stew in my mouth. I was losing consciousness fast, and I remember silently praying, silently hoping that this was all just a dream. As the world faded around me, I just kept focusing on that one last wish. Please, let me wake up in my bed.
お姉ちゃん、捕まって幸子ちゃん
I had no other choice. I grabbed Sachiko's outstretched arm and marveled again at her strength as she effortlessly pulled me out of the water. My entire body from head to toe was covered in sticky, goopy chunks of unidentifiable human flesh from countless different people.
お姉ちゃん、頭にも何かついてるよ。何か
Slowly, hesitantly, I raised my hand to my head to feel around and determine what this something might be. I wasn't looking forward to the answer. What I felt was a huge clump of matter stuck to my hair, and just touching it lightly caused some of it to stick to my hand as well. It was a massive ball of fingers and toes.
Yada! お姉ちゃん、まだついてるよ。
The severed digits were all so sticky and slimy that they'd gotten completely wrapped up in my hair, like rollers. They weren't coming out easily. I must have passed out. When I came to, I was lying on the ground with Sachiko looking over me.
お姉ちゃん、ごめんなさい。
She was on the verge of tears again. But wasn't that her voice I heard giggling at me? If not, then whose was it?
気のせいだったのかな。
That had to be it. This sweet little girl couldn't possibly have been that twisted.
うん、大丈夫だよ。
I didn't care how filthy I was. As long as Sachiko was all right, that was all that mattered. Yes, she was my little sister now, after all. I had to take care of her. I had to look after her. お姉ちゃん遅いよ。待って、幸子ちゃん。
どうしちゃったんだろう。足が重い。
Somehow, Sachiko had wound up in the lead, and I was following her blindly, struggling to keep up with her blistering pace.
お姉ちゃん汚い。もっと離れてよ。
I looked down at my uniform. Sure enough, it was soaked through with the blood of those poor victims in the body pool, and smelled really awful.
そうだよね。ごめんね。
I didn't recall saying that, or even trying to say that. It's like my mouth was moving on its own, speaking someone else's thoughts.
お姉ちゃんってほんとのろまだよね。ほんとだね。
If this was how she was going to treat me, then why was I being so nice to her? Why was I doing whatever she asked of me? It was bothering me, and yet it wasn't. I honestly didn't care anymore. I was content just to follow this abusive little girl to the ends of the earth. How long had I been walking? I wondered.
サチコちゃん、まだ歩くの？
I was following Sachiko despite myself. I had no idea how much time had passed, but it felt like an eternity. And she completely stopped answering any of my questions.
もういいや。
She came to a halt.
どうしたの、サチコちゃん。
She turned and looked up at me with wide, innocent eyes.
サチコね、欲しいものがあるの。なに？
What was it going to be this time? I honestly didn't want to know, but the question came out of my mouth anyway, and so did this.
サチコちゃんになら何でもあげるよ。じゃあ次はね。命をちょうだい。命？
Somehow, some part of me knew this was coming. It was only a matter of time.
それはダメし
Once again, I couldn't seem to control the words coming out of my mouth. It just said whatever it wanted to say, regardless of how I felt.
私の命あげるの？
She was laughing again. It was wild, crazy laughter. She was ecstatic.
どうして？何でもくれるんだよね。お姉ちゃんだもん。
Sachiko's smile almost seemed to twinkle in the dull light of the corridor. She had the face of an angel, but it was all just a mask.
怖い怖い怖い、やだよ。
I mustered all the strength I had, trying with whatever life was left in me to denounce her words and resist her pull. There was no hope for me anymore, but I still clung to what I could. If I could just reject her statement and tell her she was wrong.
いや、ダメ。は？冗談はやめてね。早くお兄ちゃんを探そう。お兄ちゃんならきっと何とかしてくれるからね。だからお兄ちゃんを。お兄ちゃん？そうだよ。私はお兄ちゃんみたいになれないけど頑張るから。お兄ちゃんお兄ちゃんってうるさいんだよ。早くよこせ。殺してやる。殺して殺して殺して殺して首に殺してやる。早く死ねー。幸子ちゃん。
My body shook and spasmed uncontrollably. I was being overtaken by an invisible force. It was compelling me to speak, to say what would be my very last words on this earth. A suicide note when you get right down to it.
しょうがないな。いいよ。私の命、幸子ちゃんにあげる。
It was instantaneous. With one single blow, my skull was cracked wide open and blood splattered far and wide. I could feel blood trickling out from my nostrils and my right ear. My brain was jutting out from inside my head, fully exposed to the air. But I was still conscious. I could still feel everything. I saw a bright flash of light and realized she'd just taken my picture with that instant camera she'd been holding on to.
綺麗な写真が撮れた。 らしい女。
Sachiko was such a cute little girl before, but now her face was twisted into a hateful, spiteful grimace as she looked down on me in contempt.
そうだ、これお兄ちゃんに見せてあげよう。何でもくれるって言ったでしょ。もう私のお兄ちゃん。
Sachiko began petting my sticky, matted head with her coarse, sticky hands in a mockery of my previous gentleness with her.
汚い顔。本当はこれを取り上げるのが目的だったんだよね。
My scrap of paper? From the charm?
お姉ちゃんとはまた遊びたいから、ファクトにはしないであげる。また遊ぼうね、ゆかお姉ちゃん。
Only way out, Renaissance recoverer, Shobu Chevalier, Ryubian's recounter, Great Harbor Guardian.